Hi, this is Dr. George Pereira for the course English for Specific Purposes, Topic 5. This is for OUM and IHS. Topic 5, Language Issues in English for Specific Purposes. So there are some number of questions that can be concerned in this topic, such as grammar, vocabulary, and discourse in English for academic purposes and business purposes. Besides recent developments in genre analysis and their influence on the teaching of writing, reading, speaking, are considered in this topic. Genre analysis is an area of discourse analysis that studies spoken and written discourse, mainly in non-literary communication, approaching it in terms of genre, that is, types or kinds of discourse characterized by regularities in form, content, purpose, and social action. So this is a technical term, genre analysis, which is also the discourse analysis, what kind of language they are talking, which includes the form of the language, the content, what is the content of the language, what is the purpose, what kind of social action is involved in the language. So that's a part of genre. The initial questions that the reader should bear in mind when reading this topic is, to what extent teaching of grammar and vocabulary matters to teachers of English for specific purposes and to the students. So grammar in English for specific purposes. Is grammar integral to the productivity of an ESP course? It would be incorrect to rule it out altogether. Grammar is necessary. The accuracy of the produced language is an important issue. So grammar is important. It should be given priority when necessary. So the learner's weakness in grammar could affect the comprehension of the text. For example, tenses and so forth, models. The grammatical relationship between meaning and form can be taught or revised in context through analysis and explanation in the discourse. So let us move to the verbs and tenses. For example, the use of present perfect may be very important in an academic article. Then the voice. The voice is actually the active or the passive. Scientific writing uses passive voice more than active voice. Writers tend to use we form active when they write about their own accomplishments, but use the passive voice when standard procedures are being talked about. Apart from tenses and the voice, passive or active, the models, that is another important part, such as could, should, and so forth. Take models such as could and may, for instance, to get a clear idea. Add statements containing words such as suggest and show instead of models to realize how they can produce meanings ranging from politeness to caution. It is suggested. It shows, for example. Learners need to be able to appreciate the role of hedging in academic, professional, and business genres and to manipulate its actual linguistic devices. Hedging language is also known as cautious language or vague language. It's a cautious, vague, and evasive statement. Hedge. The verb is to avoid answering a question, making a clear, direct statement, or committing yourself to a particular action or decision. For example, look at these examples. These are the models, of course: can, could, may, might, should, would. So example is, it could be that human expansion of the greenhouse effect is the cause of global warming. It could be, but there can be other means. In such a situation, we could say, removing this part, hedge. Human expansion of the greenhouse effect is the cause of global warming. It's definite, but here it could be. So see the evasive statement, cautious and vague when you say that, using the models. Other aspects and forms of English grammar include articles, nominalization, and logical connections, coherence. Nominalization is a type of word formation in which a verb or an adjective is used as a noun. For example, preparation was carried out. A similar experiment was carried out using the material. So that type of thing. So command has carried out become as a general purpose verb that it is a recognized marker of a scientific reporting. And television news bulletins commonly adopt the construction when reporting scientific work. Carried out is the nominalization. Okay, vocabulary in English for specific purposes. In the textbook assigned for us, they focus on the semi-technical vocabulary and core business vocabulary. Two things. So teaching vocabulary is sometimes considered as not a responsibility of the English teacher. I mean the technical vocabulary. But it's necessary to briefly work on the technical words before moving on to discuss semi-technical words, especially in business. The teaching of technical vocabulary to the learners is not difficult as they are already familiar with those terms if they are working adults in the same field. The teacher can then prepare a certain glossary of terms which provides the learners with appropriate and necessary technical vocabulary throughout the course. There are 6 overlapping categories in semi-technical vocabulary. Semi-technical vocabulary are general to all disciplines. They are one or two particular disciplines, can be common to one or two particular disciplines. And these semi-technical vocabulary can have different meanings in different disciplines. General language items also restricted and specific meanings in different disciplines. Or it could have the same meaning. Or items that are used in a writer's intentions or critical appreciation of the material presented. So the book here, this textbook, focuses on only first category. notions that are general to all disciplines. It is important that students assume the meaning from the context. For production, students should be required to store and retrieve the words used in different methods. So some methods are given here, which could be elaborated later on. Another area is discourse and genre analysis. That is, certain text patterns are studied, turn taken and topic change within a dialogue are considered. The problem solution pattern is a recurrent pattern in the text. There are 4 parts of this in discourse analysis. Analysis of the situation, the problem with that situation, response to that problem, evaluation of that response. So the presentation of a report making recommendations is more effective from a rhetorical point of view if it makes its case using problem solution patterns. For example, this should remind you of the persuasive essays and argumentative essays. So other recurrent patterns that are discussed later on are hypothetical real, claim justification, and general particular patterns. From general to particular, from claim to justification, the patterns of writing. That's the discourse, the genre. Or the hypothetical to the real. You hypothesize, theorize, and you come to the real. So, the discourse analysis within a text could be very essential, especially for academic purposes as well as for business purposes. So there are different approaches. For example, when you do a report, the approach could be in the genre or the discourse analysis, hypothetical to real, claim to justification, general to particular patterns. So, for example, research on the nature of an academic essay. If we ask that question, what matters is the discourse analysis. So you can see techniques of genre analysis developed originally for the study of academic text. But that is also essential for business letters. For example, business letters, promotional genre, and the job application letter, and infers that the two genres follow the same patterns. What does it mean for teaching learners to use specific genre? That is, for the different, to adopt different stance, they may use a genre. But in occupational English, writers need to be aware of appropriate politeness strategies in their daily encounters with fax message, email, or telephone message. So that is the different genre, the discourse that we analyze in the language used for academic purposes and business purposes. Argumentative, or you may use the words, the genre, the discourse, to persuade the reader. For example, so English for specific purposes, methodologies and approaches can be different. So these are the study questions. Describe the dynamics that underlie the teaching of grammar and vocabulary in ESP. Explain how literature on discourse analysis and genre analysis relate to English for specific purposes development. You can read the answers here and get an idea. The teaching of grammar and vocabulary takes off from the entry competence level of the learners. In vocabulary learning, there is contention that technical vocabulary is also important. As this paragraph goes, it is also technical. Semi-technical and specifically technical terms are also essential for the learner, but also they come with that background knowledge. Second answer, discourse could be investigated from two angles, that of writing and that of speaking. The language of writing, the language of speaking. So we can read the answers. This is also in the textbook. So English for business purposes we have discussed here. So let us move on. Thank you. This is Dr. George Pereira for OUM and IHS.